Welcome along to episode 4 of the Kish Podcast. I'm Tony Scott.
And I'm Emer McCormack.
On today's episode, we speak to what I could probably only describe as one of Mayo's big legends. Would that be correct, Emer?
No, Tony, that will be incorrect. She is a household name in Ireland. Her name is CORA STAUNTON. She's the very first female in Ireland to get a semi-professional contract out of the Australian National Rules Football League.
And is that something that would happen regularly?
Well, since Cora paved the way, a few more players like Sarah Rowe and a few others from all around the country has taken that journey out to Australia as well to play professional or semi-professional football out there. So we're breeding a huge amount of amazing Irish footballers, and then they're taking up that sport out there. So so Cora is such an amazing athlete, always has been. I was really delighted to catch up with her. She literally just returned from Australia after spending another season out there. She's now spent 2 seasons playing out in Australia, so we had a little bit of a catch up with her.
Well, I think we should find out, who is CORA STAUNTON?
She is probably a well-known sports person, a very quiet, shy individual off the field, probably a very different person on the field, very competitive person on the field, but pretty chilled out and relaxed, off it when she's back home in Ireland. Ireland to Australia is probably a bit different too, because the lifestyle in Australia is quite a bit different to Ireland. But normally when I'm home here, I'm working, training. When I'm in Australia, I'm probably resting, training. So there isn't too much of a difference really, but you're getting paid in Australia where you're not getting paid here.
What did you study in college, and what do you do now for a living?
I studied a business degree with recreational in Athlone IT. That's where I'd have met your good self.
That's it.
And then probably, I think about 2 or 3 years later, I done a Masters in Health Promotion in UIG in Galway. And from there, I worked with through the HSC with Mayo Traveller Support Group as a primary healthcare coordinator, working with the traveller community, basically promoting good health within the community and try to better their health outcomes. So I've been kind of doing that for kind of 9 to 10 years, but kind of the last 3 years I've been on a bit of a sabbatical from there, where I've been obviously in Australia, playing AFL semi-professionally, and obviously getting paid for that. So been mixing and matching in the last while, and obviously have been doing a bit of media work in the last year or two with RT as well, through the radio and TV.
And will you go back into HSE in the future, or do you see yourself just maybe taking another couple of years out and seeing what happens?
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit of maybe probably a bit of a change of career now. I'll decide on what the story is with Australia, whether I'll go back in October again next year. But I probably do see myself having a little bit of a career change. I'm meant to be doing some work with RRT through the summer. Obviously, that's a bit up in the air. With the current crisis that we're in. So I was kind of going down a little bit into the media path, doing TV and radio with them throughout the summer. And if I go back to Australia then or not, it'll depend on. But yeah, certainly I probably see myself changing a career a little bit, as I've been working kind of within the traveller community kind of for the guts of 10 years. And while I love health promotion and will continue to do something in health promotion, I'd like to kind of get involved either in the health promotion side in sport, or maybe working with kids with disabilities or kids in general around obesity and stuff. That's what I'd have an interest in. So we'll see what it entails. As for now, it's just back from Australia and kind of getting my feet under me again. And obviously work wise, there's nothing happening much at the moment. But I hope when all this pandemic is over that I'll see what the next few months brings and make a decision around whether I'll go back to Australia or not in October.
You had quite a significant injury there last year. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how bad was it?
Yeah, it's nearly a year now. So it was on the 4th of May that I unfortunately broke my leg. So I decided to stay on in Australia for an extra month or two, just to get a couple of club games in, and because I knew I was coming back out to play the following season. And in my second game, just was being tackled, sidestepped. Someone was being tackled and went down. I could feel the crunching in my leg as I was going down. I couldn't move my foot. It got stuck, and as I was going down, I knew when I went down there was something wrong. I tried to get it up. I had a look at my leg, and I could see, oh God, this is not pointing in the right direction. It should be. My ankle wasn't pointing in the right direction, it was gone the other way. And tried to get up again, but obviously that wasn't possible. So I was taken to hospital, and so I had x-rays and had surgery pretty quickly just to straighten the leg, and then had surgery 2 days later, obviously, to fix it. So I broke my tibia and fibia. So I had 2 breaks in my tibia, your main bone in your leg, and they were pretty significant because it was a spiral fracture, which is a little bit different. It's a bigger fracture. And then I broke my fibia as well, and then I had a break in my ankle. So it was 4 breaks altogether. So probably not the best thing to hear. Knew that people were talking about career ending and having the motivation to get back and play and all that. So, but I was lucky I was out there, to be honest. I've got a very good physio, strength conditioning coach, and obviously my own coach out there were huge help and put everything in place for me to get back. So from May to September, I was out there. I came home in the middle of September because they were happy to let me home at that stage. I was back up and running, and I could continue my program at home. But it was 6 days a week from May to September. Probably about 24 hours a week. Majority weeks I was doing. When I came home, that probably reduced, probably 18 hours a week. So it was pretty intense, but I was pretty happy. I was back within full training when I went back in the Giants in December, and obviously tried to play a small bit of club football when I come home. It's I have no issues with it now. Obviously I've played the season with the Giants, and hopefully I'll be able to play a bit of football when this whole situation hopefully finishes, and it's the leg is back to normal, probably stronger than it ever was.
Whatever about people saying to you that it's career ending, what was actually going through your own mind?
I suppose when it happened, obviously initially I was like, oh God, this is bad. I just knew by the look and people's reaction around me was probably the biggest thing. There was a lot of girls that were shaking and crying, and I had a friend of mine that was playing on the opposition team, and she was holding me, but she was probably as bad as I was, as in she was in shock. But I suppose when I went to the hospital and then I was told I had 4 breaks, that was probably like, oh God, this is bad. But sure, when the ambulance came to pick me off the pitch, obviously the first question I was asking them, how long will it take me to get back playing? And they were telling me not to worry about that. But I suppose initially, you kind of Google is probably a bad thing, because you start to Google and, these fractures and, people that had like, double leg fractures or treble leg fractures, and the outcome isn't probably pretty good. But I suppose when I sat and talked to the surgeon, I probably wasn't initially, he didn't give much away, but I suppose after my 2-week checkup, I said to him, I need to be back here in 5 or 6 months, is this possible? And he was very open to it. He said, you can be back. He said, you won't, I'm not saying you'll be back to your best or anywhere near it, but you could be back. So when he kind of said that, and then the plans were put in place, I knew I could. But like the club were telling me that, the physios and stuff could be 12 months. But I normally, rule of thumb with a big injury for me is normally half it and maybe add a month. So I was saying 6-7 months, I'd be happy if I was back in that. So that was my aim. And, lucky enough that's what happened. And, I got back, and, it hasn't given me any problems since I came back. But, the coaches that I've had, the strength conditioning coach, she's phenomenal. Watch the work she's putting with me, and the same with my physio. And I suppose I was lucky that, as I said, it happened out there, and that I had that support, to help me both, having the facility at the Giants and both financially, that I could stay out there and get my rehab done. Mentally
as well, it must have been a tough job. You as a person, you're very, very focused, and if the surgeon had said to you, yeah, Cora, look, there is a possibility, all you see is the end line. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, probably. I'd be known to be very focused. I'm very stubborn, and I suppose I seen it as initially, I seen it as a challenge, and I knew from talking to people that, that I had massive respect for and cared a lot about, within the club, my teammates and coaches and people, that I really look up to. And I could see, especially probably within my coach, he had a little bit of doubt, and when you look at it, no wonder he had. I wasn't young. I was 36 at the time, 37, and I'm after breaking my leg. 36 at the time, I'm after breaking my leg really badly. Most AFL men's players probably don't come back from this break, and he's just like, she's mad. She thinks she'll be back in 6 months' time. I suppose when I heard, and I had a couple of comments, and I was probably overplaying the comments in my head from just different people, and I suppose I used that as motivation and focus and stubbornness, and that throughout my journey was kind of like, oh, I'll prove them wrong. And then when I seen people like my strength conditioning coach and physio putting in so much time and effort to me, I felt I needed to reward them also, that I needed to get back. So yeah, I found it was a challenge. It was like anything else. It's like anything else in life. Something was thrown at you, and it's a huge challenge. And there's only one way you can go on a challenge: either pass or fail it. And I don't really like failing in too many challenges. So once the surgeon said, from a medical point of view, you can't get back. You can get back and play. I knew it was possible, but it was going to be a lot of hard work. Yeah, and don't doubt that I had mental demons now and then throughout the process, and I had really bad days. And again, excuse me, my strength conditioning coach would have helped me through them days. And I suppose initially when I went back to full training, I had a couple of days where I was like, oh God, can I get back to where I was? And it's just like something clicks in your head and your back. And yeah, there was a certain particular training session on a Tuesday I had, and I knew I was back, and I knew I had no fear anymore. And that was in the middle of December. I was fine to go, and I knew that from that day on. Then I was back to myself, and I had no worries or no doubts.
Amazing recovery, amazing story to be able to be so resilient to get back. But all the things that's been thrown at you in life, and then you just get up and you have another crack at it, which is it's a great kind of mentality to have in the first instance. So you mentioned there when you were speaking, you mentioned the fact that you're kind of glad that happened over there. Do you think that if you had the same injury playing Gaelic football here in Ireland, would you have had the same level of support?
Unfortunately not. I don't think I would, because number one, it's we're in a professional environment, even though we're semi-professional athletes, and we're in a professional environment, and I kind of see myself as a professional athlete because I wasn't working over there. So I was giving all my time to football, or to AFL and rest and recovery, and AFL and rest and recovery. So I just, unfortunately, I think if this happened on a Gaelic football pitch at home, I don't think, when it happened to me, I was within the hospital, the emergency department, half an hour later, brought to the nearest hospital, whatever, and all behind the scenes, and me not knowing majority of this until after all it happened. Our men's team were playing at the time. I think they were playing in Queensland at the time, and our coach of our women's team is involved with the men's team. The programs are very close and interlinked, and all of that. And our strength conditioning physio staff are very interlinked. He'd found out that I broke my leg, I think, in the third quarter of the men's match, and trying to still do his job of coaching the men's team to victory. He and a number of others, physios with the men's team, were on to try and get me the best surgeon to have the surgery, and if it wasn't to be in that hospital, what hospital should I be moved to? Now, luckily, the surgeon they wanted to do my operation worked out of the hospital that I was at, so they made sure I had him. They had plans in place that I didn't even know at the time. And then obviously, 2 weeks after the operation, I had been out of the club, and my coach had a meeting organised with the relevant people that I needed over the next few months, and a plan put in place. And, we had weekly meetings and to see how the recovery was going. And I had a little bit of an issue with a nerve in my leg affecting my toes, especially my big toe, where I had no movement in my big toe, probably for the first 6 or 8 months. And I suppose people not knowing your big toe is quite important when you're running and doing a number of different things. So they had me for every possible test, scan. I've been to more different appointments to try and get this right. And even now, when I was back again, I have more movement and it's coming back, but they were making sure that everything is right. So I just don't think you get that level of care because it's an amateur sport. I just don't think that initial probably 48, 72 hours that you need to get the proper surgeon and get the surgery done. I was lucky I got an IM nail and screws put through my leg. Normally you're casted, which if I was casted, I'd be in a full leg cast for probably the guts of 4 months. And if that was the case, I'd never have got back, because after 2 weeks, when I come off crutches after 2 weeks, I was down to one crutch. I started cycling on a stationary bike, and I started my rehab, where if I was in a cast, I wouldn't be able to do anything for the first 4 months. I was swimming after the first, walking in the pool after 2 weeks. So that kind of level of care, I don't know if you could get it over here. I just don't think, because it's an amateur sport. Plus I wasn't working, and I was dedicating all my time to it as well. Financially, I don't think I'd have been able to afford it if I was at home as well. So there's all different aspects of it. So from that point of view, I just don't think I probably have got back to some level of sport, but it have certainly probably taken well over a year.
Why do you think, Cora, that they've invested so much in you? Because if you look at the landscape in its entirety, you'd look at a girl who's, 37, 38, probably towards the end of her career, even though I hate saying that because I know that that's a question that's constantly asked. From an age point of view, what they can get out of you, why do you think they kind of stuck in and said, no, we're going to back Cora here?
I suppose I've seen enough in the 2 years that I had been at the club. I have a very good relationship with the majority of the people in the club. And initially when I probably came to the Giants, it wasn't just for on-field stuff, and I've never been just there for on-field stuff, as in my on-field performance. It's more so more important, it's probably off-field stuff that I'm there for, leadership point of view, that I was put into the leadership group this year. And I suppose we've a lot of young girls coming from all over Australia, from interstate. I think we've only, for 31, I think only 10 or 12 are actually based and live in New South Wales, and that's including Canberra, which is probably a 3-hour drive from Sydney. I think it's to help these girls develop. So you kind of nearly take on, I hate to say it, a mother role, but you take on a role of where you're a mentor, and they're struggling. They're maybe 21 and they're living away from home, and they mightn't be getting a game, or they're struggling at training, and just stuff like that. So you end up being nearly you end up being a mentor and maybe someone that they can lean on, and you're trying to get the best out of these girls who are going to be the mainstay of the club for the next 8 to 10 years. So you're trying to basically help them grow and be good people, but also good footballers. And I think for any sports person, if you're happy off the field, you're certainly going to be happy on it. And I suppose my role was probably the girls that needed a little bit of support and a little bit of mentoring. That I've been doing that over the last number of years. I think that was definitely a reason that they obviously invested so much time. And I suppose they know the type of person I am. They've learned a lot about me in the time I've been there, and how it's all or nothing. I give 100% every time. It's a running joke over there for the first number of years that there's no point telling Cora not to train or take it easy or rest up, because they normally give the older girls a little bit of a break, because it normally means I'll do more and that they won't get me off the training track. So I just think the mentality that I have, and that I'm very driven. And I suppose for me, myself, I said, if I don't get back from this, I'm going to put in really 6 months of really hard rehab. And I think even that, being the girls being around the club and seeing that happening, God, look at the effort that she's putting in to get back out in the pitch, and they can say to themselves, all I have to do is maybe get fit, maybe lose a kg, maybe get faster, whatever there was. But look at the effort she's putting in to get back, and there might be a 10% chance that she does get back. So it's all of that kind of leadership, mentoring, whatever you want to call it. I think that's probably the mainstay of it.
You mentioned the word being happy. I don't think that I've ever seen you as happy as what you are now. Am I right in thinking that I see a different Cora to what I seen when you're playing Gaelic football in Ireland?
No, when I was playing Gaelic football in Mayo, I loved it and enjoyed every minute of being playing on the pitch. There's obviously probably a lot of off-field stuff that you don't enjoy as much, but I suppose when you play something for so long, it doesn't probably have the same challenge as something new and something fresh. It was like, a number of years ago when I used to play a bit of soccer, I found that just probably it was less pressure was probably the biggest thing. It was just something I could go and enjoy sport and not worry about what's going on in the background. And it's probably the same with rugby. When I took it up for a while, it's another challenge, and I suppose as a sports person, you're looking for challenges, and maybe within one sport you can stay static and not see things moving. And again, AFL and the professionalism of AFL was probably another draw. It's probably less pressure. I suppose I've been walking around as a young person for years with a lot of pressure on my shoulders, unknown to me. Some of it unknown to me, but I think that probably pressureless environment in Australia, I know, but I went out and I'm ranked number 31 in the team. I've never played the sport. Nobody knows yet, and nobody cares what your name is or everything. You just get on and you're part of a team environment, where I suppose I've been in a team environment for years where people have a judgment made of you before they even meet you. Whether that's your coach or new teammates or whatever. And probably looking back, you know, that just becomes the norm, but it shouldn't be the norm. And I suppose I just felt when I'm away in Australia, I can be who I want to be. There's no pressure on me. I can walk down the street and nobody knows me. And it's just a very, very different, relaxed environment. You know, I don't have to rush from work to get to training or trying to get my gym program in. I don't have to please 10 people by going to this function or doing that or doing this. My time is my own. Probably here, I don't have very much downtime. You know, between work and training, and then obviously, you know, trying to please everyone else and trying to fit in what you want to do. You just don't get the time where I think you do get it over there. And maybe that's the whole pressure valve releasing, that you don't have that anymore. Is probably why. But no, I loved every minute that I was playing with Mayo. I still love playing with Carnacon. But yeah, it's just a different challenge. It's a huge challenge. It's like picking up a new sport when you're 7 or 8 and trying to be the best at it. And you're pushing your body to limits that you never have pushed, but you have the resources there to help you to become the best person that you can become.
And what are your teammates like?
The Aussies are a bit different, obviously, to the Irish. I suppose it took me a while. You know, people, you probably know more than the people, but me off the pitch in a normal social environment, I wouldn't be the most outgoing, or I'd be quite shy, and that's why I probably surrounded myself with friends or people that, you know, that I trusted, that were a bit the opposite, where they were more outgoing and shy, or more outgoing and vocal, and I could just follow their path. So I found, obviously, the first month I went over there, I didn't like it at all. But I was lucky I was staying with my brother and his wife and 2 boys. So, you know, that point of view, I'd still had a bit of a safety net and security. But I normally over here in Ireland, I had the safety net or security of a couple of my friends, especially my best friends that you'd know, crazy. So I didn't have that over there. So I had to, like, when I walked into the dressing room the first day, I was like, oh God, and I'm sit beside my locker, I don't know anyone here. And initially they don't actually, like, genuinely understand you, and they find your accent very hard to understand. So that was another barrier. So I had to learn to speak really slow because they couldn't understand me. So the first month, it was difficult, and it came to Christmas, and obviously Christmas time was a lonely time over there, and we did a little bit of a break for Christmas, and then when you go back after Christmas, it's like the injury. It's just like one moment or one training session. I don't know, did it start with someone probably slagging me a bit or something, or just something happened, or I don't know. I think it could have been a practice match we had, and I had a pretty good game, and girls were like, I think that was it. Girls were like, oh God, she's the real deal. I've had a very good game in a practice match, and kind of just things. There was probably particularly one girl within the team that, you know, tried very hard and integrated me into the team, which again is probably what I needed. And then from then on, I'd have great relationships with all the girls. I'd be hugely friendly with some of the girls that have been there right from the start, and then obviously we've new girls that come in all the time. But I certainly have, you know, great relationships with them. I was due to have a good few of them back in Ireland this year because they were doing a bit of travelling in Europe, but I was meant to have about 5 or 6 of them, but obviously with the pandemic that's happening, that's happened. Yeah. But I'd be in contact with them regularly. A few of them I'd be in contact with them with daily, and then probably 3 or 4 different Zoom calls every week where I catch up for an hour or 2 with them all. And they're very good friends, and they'll be friends, you know, for life. And anytime I go, certainly to Australia, I'll be catching up with them, and I'll keep in contact with them because they've helped me settle in over the last 3 years brilliantly, and they're just a bit different to the Irish, but they're kind of getting the Irish way. But yeah, they do say I do take a lot of the abuse for the most part out there, but do say the more the slag is, the more they love you. So I take that as a compliment.
That's a good sign. Obviously, you're playing for the AFL. You are a professional athlete. Take me through what your typical training weekly session would look like.
So it all depends on what part of the season we're in. So if you're in pre-season, training's obviously heavier. If you're within season and have games, we've games every week, so training is lighter. So typical, we'd say, kind of November, December, January training week would be. What did we train this year? We trained because the boys are professional. They get first access to the club, but they train in the morning times. We kind of train in afternoon, evening times. So we come into the club kind of any time, roll into the club any time between kind of 2 and 3. The boys kind of take the morning sessions. Bar and Saturday, we'd be in the morning. But this year we trained, our main training sessions were Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we Tuesdays off, and we had a lighter kind of session on a Thursday, which was gym based. Well, we do gym every day, but it was a lighter kind of gym based session, but also education around the game. And then on a Saturday, then we could have some sort of kind of match sim, which would be like practice, some sort of match game, where it wouldn't be as heavy as the training on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we normally had Tuesdays and Sundays off. So depending on, because we've girls that work part-time and, you know, have a job in the morning and come in and training. So obviously I didn't have to work, so I could come into the club early and do extras or be watching like footage of our last training or our last match or last year's matches or whatever, just doing a bit of education, meeting up with our line coaches. So I'd have a forwards coach that you might meet up with, or head coach, different things, or I'd be coming in for different meetings. We had a lot of leadership meetings, or again I'd be doing my mentoring where you'd be catching up with girls or whatever. So normally you come in then and we'd have to be, you know, going to physio, whatever you needed. Then we'd start our prep to train, and then you do all your strapping, and we normally have a team meeting before training, and that normally happened kind of between 4:30 and 5, normally 5, and then our coach would go through what training is going to look like for the afternoon or for that evening, and then he might go through a couple of video edits from the training before and what we need to work on, or this was good or this was bad. Then we normally go out to the gym and do maybe like 10 minutes of prep to train before we go out training. Then we're out in the track for probably, depending on the session, if it's a pre-season you could be out anything up to kind of an hour and a half, 2 hours. If it's in the season it'll be less. Come off the track then after training, into the change room, put on our runners, and then we'd have our gym session, which normally lasted probably an hour and 10 minutes, and then we'd have we possibly could have another meeting, and then you'd have recovery. So we'd have to ice bath or hot and cold, or you'd have to do all your kind of stretch and foam roll and whatever your recovery looked like. And then you normally have some food, and then you'd be home. So depending on the session, you might be home. Depending on how far you're living from the club. This year I was living 15 minutes, so could be anything between 9 and 9:30 you're home, and in a season it could be a bit earlier. Your days varied, but they're easy enough to fill. You wouldn't be that boring. And then on my days off I might go in and watch, or as I said, our head coach is involved with the boys, and our captain of our team is coaching with the boys team as well. So I'd go in with, and kind of tag along with them and watch the boys train, and kind of pick up different coaching stuff, and just use it as things that you might use in the future, that you'd sit in on different meetings and just learn a couple of different things that you wanted to learn.
You said that the lads come in the morning, and do you share exactly the same facilities? Is there any distinction between male and female athletes? No, the only distinction is that they have their own changing room and we have our own changing room, because obviously everything is stored within the club, so you have your own lockers and you just leave your boots. You don't bring anything home. All your training gear, is majority of it is washed for you, so like everything is left there, so you don't have to bring too much stuff home. So we have our own changing rooms and they have their own changing rooms. Towards the end of the season we had to get different changing rooms because they're actually expanding. The Giants are building on a big development, so we're actually getting new changing rooms, and we're getting there haven't been a swimming pool in the club, but there will be, and we're getting a new auditorium, and there's a big development going on at the moment. But no, we share the same oval, we share the same gym, and we share the same physio rooms, we share the same everything, laptops, meeting rooms, everything. The only difference is the change rooms that we don't share. And we share some staff, and we don't. They obviously have more staff. They have a list of 45 boys, we have a list of 31 girls, so they obviously are full-time, so they have extra staff because they're in there full-time and they have more people. But everything else, resource-wise, there'd be huge crossover. Actually, when the pandemic hit, we had to stop the crossover because they were afraid of infection. So we moved to our main stadium, which was brilliant because we got to train there and do all the stuff there. But that was only for kind of the last week or two. But generally we have the netballers, we have a netball team as well, and the women share the facilities. Now the netballers have their own court across the road, so they just come over to use the gym facilities, but otherwise they're kind of based in their own centre, and they're actually moving into a new place as well at the moment. It used to be the tennis arena in the Sydney Olympic Park. Oh wow! That's going to be their headquarters. Yeah, so they're literally all within 2 minutes walk from each other. I know that obviously GA and the LGFA are amateur organisations, but yet you still have, you know, amazing facilities across the entire country. I still don't understand to this day why can't the male and female athletes share the same facilities and be treated the same way. What's your thoughts on that?
I've been out of the inter-county game now for 2 years. I don't know fully what's happening in the last 2 years around facilities and pitches. I think it's pretty much the same as far as I know, but I couldn't be sure. I suppose, yeah, your thoughts are, it's disappointing. You know, we went from times where we'd be begging for pitches, or probably training in rugby pitches or soccer pitches or in pitches that weren't fit for us for training, for the purpose that we mightn't even have, you know, changing room that open, or if we did, they're limited, we'd no showers. And, you know, you're in an era where you're not getting any expenses, or, you know, and not that you're ever crib about it. I played for Mayo because I love playing for Mayo, but the 24 years that you pay for them, you're out of pocket. I've never once received a fuel voucher or petrol expenses for travelling to training, whether that was coming from here, Cairn, or Conor, was coming from college, or if wherever you were coming from. So I think, yeah, obviously there's huge disparity there, and that's disappointing because I know there's a difference in the attendance at matches and crowds that the men's get, but I think it is a thing that they need to rectify. I think they have been trying to, but until both the ladies football and camogie and the men's Gaelic football all become under the one umbrella and one organisation, that's never going to change, because you can't. At the moment, they're 3 separate organisations and they have different rules for each. And until they become under the one organisation, you cannot put pressure on to say that we need the same as the men, whether it's expenses wise or facilities wise, because the men's GA can turn around and go, but the ladies football are operating separate to us and the camogie are operating separate. So you don't really have a leg to stand on. I know the GPA and the WGPA have been pushing for it, but you know, I think that it's been crying out for the last 5, 6, 7 years that the organisations amalgamate and all become under the one umbrella. And I know when I think it was Nicky Brennan was president, he was, you know, the biggest advocate for it, and it still hasn't come to fruition, and hopefully it will soon. But yeah, it's disappointing. I suppose, you know, you kind of got over the financial thing, expenses. You never got them, so you never knew what they were like. So that wasn't a thing. The thing that probably annoyed me most when I was playing was the training facilities. It was just, there was nights that was very dangerous. You could be training in pitches that were very, you know, floodlights were very poor, or just the facilities. You might have travelled an hour to train and you have to sit in the car on the way home because you couldn't have a hot shower. So them type of things. And, you know, obviously you'd see probably the men training in McHale Park or behind McHale Park or wherever it was. And, you know, we barely ever got into McHale Park. Certainly to play a Connacht final, that was it. And you'd be lucky if you got in for a training beforehand. So, yeah, it was disappointing. But I suppose when you're in it, all you want to do is play and train and win and whatever. But, yeah, when you look back that we're in this kind of, you know, modern era, that these things are still happening. And I know it's better. The thing is, it's better in some counties than others. You know, it could be better in Dublin than it is in, we'd say, the likes of Wexford or somewhere else. But it's still happening. It's happening in majority of the counties throughout. It probably has got a little bit better, but you know, there is huge inequalities there within training facilities and expenses. And again, I don't think until they all amalgamate and come under one that can be really changed, or really a challenge to be changed.
And would you like to see that in your lifetime?
Oh, yeah, you'd love to see it. Like, you know, if you had a young girl growing up now, or, you know, I've nieces growing up, or cousins, whatever, and you're saying to them, like, you have an option here to maybe go a different path and play a sport that you're probably treated a little bit better, whether that was, you know, I know rugby is probably an up-and-coming sport. Rugby sevens, I've, you know, met a number of times, and I've been in Sydney. They travel the world and they're being paid. So if you've been weighed up to play rugby now, or soccer, or, you know, maybe soccer's become big. We've a lot of girls that are playing, you know, in England and right throughout Europe. You know, you're kind of saying, well, you're going to be like looked after a lot better here if you go and play rugby, you go and play soccer, or whatever the sport is. And now with the case, it can be AFL, and I'm sure there'll be a number of other sports that will become, you know, that you'll be better looked after and paid. You kind of have to start pushing them towards them sports, because, you know, in my spell of playing Gaelic football over 25 years, they haven't changed dramatically. Things have got a little bit better in the terms of facilities, but expenses didn't change over all that time. If it's taken 25 years and it hasn't changed at all, you're kind of looking at what the next 25 years be. You'd hope it'll be a lot quicker and better, but you'd hope that ladies football won't start losing young girls, or they'll choose other sports where they'll be probably looked after better. And that's that happens in areas that people probably don't see. And that's like, as I spoke in another podcast where they talk about medical expenses and my Australia experience. How I didn't have to pay for a penny for any of my leg, and and this is 9 or 11 months on, I haven't still paid for anything. And even if I have an appointment now, it's all covered. But I remember back in, I think I was just doing my master's in college. It's probably 12 years ago, and I had got my knee done and my ACL, and I think at the time, don't quote me, but it was costing maybe about 7,500-8,000. I had to get 2 operations done. Mm-hmm. And ladies football will only cover a max of 5,000. So straight away as a student, I was out 2,500-3,000.
That's unbelievable.
And at the time, I'm sure I wasn't out, and I'm sure my dad was out of pocket, because I certainly couldn't have afforded it. But you know what I mean? If you have that, and I know, and that's me. I know other girls, club girls, and I know other girls that have come out and spoke about this. So if you're playing a game and representing your county or your club, and you're being medically put out of pocket, that to me is a no-no. You should be looked after as best you can, and you should not be out by a penny, because you've injured that leg or ankle or arm or whatever it is playing that sport, and you pay your insurance, so you should be fully entitled to every bit of cover that you get back.
It's hard to believe that situation happened, that you were out of pocket for that.
Yeah, I know it's in the past 2 or 3 years from other people that it still was happening back then, where there was girls who were out of pocket for injuries that they've had. So I think that's a system that needs to be fixed, and again, that probably needs to be done when everything goes under the one organisation.
So this next question actually comes from Little Av. The first question that she asked is, what sport do you prefer? Now, you have to give an honest answer, so none of this fluffiness. Do you prefer ladies Gaelic football, or do you prefer the AFLW?
Oh God, that's a hard question. Probably at the moment I prefer AFL, if I'm being honest. Yeah, it'd be probably my favourite sport at the moment. I haven't played very much Gaelic football in the last probably year to year and a half. So yeah, at the moment, I prefer AFL to watch as well.
And would you be tempted to play for another AFLW team or club rather, if you got an unbelievable offer?
No, absolutely no way. No.
Why is that?
I'm very loyal, very, very loyal. It's like with Carnacon, I have never ever played for any other club. It'd be like with Mayo, I'd never play for any other county, absolutely no. I'm certainly in any sport. Very much one club. It wouldn't even cross my mind. It could have been the biggest offer ever. No, I definitely wouldn't. I'm very much one club person. And it's probably a thing I struggle with in the AFL is how people change clubs so often. And there's girls that maybe in the 4 seasons that AFL has been with 3 clubs. If you're trying to build something and you're trying to build a culture in a club, you do it by loyalty and keeping the majority of your group together. And I think, what the Giants have done for me over the last 3 years, and they know it. I certainly wouldn't. If I was 30 or 25, I'd never leave them. You'd stay and you try and make them as successful as possible.
And if Al McConnell retires, would you still play for the Giants?
He's not going to retire, so that's the good thing. That'll be a tough one. I'll never have to make that decision anyways, because he's going to be there longer than I am. I think he's probably one of the main reasons that the majority of the girls have been kept together, certainly. I do think that the next person that tries to fill his shoes will have to be an exceptional person to try and keep that group of girls together, because the majority of them, or a lot of them, are there. The reason they're there is because of him, or the reason that they haven't gone back to their own state is because of him. So thankfully I'll never have to make that decision, but I do think he's the type that'll be there until he's either not able to be there anymore or he's thrown out. He'll be there for a long time. He's very much like me. He's very passionate about the Giants, and he's been there since the men's team formed in 2011. So he was the first employee of the club.
Wow.
So yeah, he's a very passionate man. I think that's probably why we get on so well.
Yeah, and how did you get on this season? How far did you get in the league? Or
we got to the final series against Melbourne, and then we lost to them by 2 points. But the the season was cancelled. So we played on a Saturday, the season was cancelled. The season didn't finish out.
Oh, okay.
The season was cancelled on Sunday, so they just cancelled it. It wasn't postponed because obviously it's different to the men's season. Girls go back to their jobs, and it's it's a 6-month season.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was no champions this year. It'll just be put down as the season being cancelled. So the men's season is still cancelled at the moment, or postponed at the moment, but they're hoping to kickstart sometime, I think, in July. Whether that'll go ahead or not, who knows? But they're looking to go towards a hub series where either they'll have 3 different hubs throughout Australia. So I think it's Adelaide, Perth and Queensland, where the 6 teams from each 6 clubs will go to each the hubs, so the 18 teams, or they'll have one hub where they'll have all the teams living in one place and play all the games.
Wow, that'd be interesting.
Interesting to see what happens.
Do you think, looking at the championship now and, well, the league, which never even finished in GAA, so do you think that that's not going to go ahead this year? It's
very hard to see it. The more you read and the more you hear, obviously with the whole crowd thing of 5,000 and less, that's until the end of August. I'd be very surprised. While I love to see it going ahead, I'd be very surprised if it goes ahead, because obviously they're amateur sports people and they, have their jobs the next day that they go to, or they have to go home, and they're putting people, their families at risk of maybe contracting the virus because it's contact sport. I don't know. I don't see how it'll go ahead. I'd love to go ahead, whether that'll be without crowds or not. You'd love to just see some sort of sport on TV.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to find it very difficult, unless obviously there's a breakthrough with an immunisation or a vaccine for the virus, or something radically happens, which obviously is, it's going to be very difficult. Yeah, the later it goes on, I don't see it happening. Maybe you might get a bit of club football because, but at the same time, I still even find it hard to say that there'll be club football unless things change dramatically in Ireland, kind of up when it comes to September, October.
Cora, is there any particular athlete that you follow that you would aspire to be, or that you have the same aligned values as them?
Yeah, I suppose I like watching all. Like growing up, I was obviously all Irish people. I was a huge fan of Sonia growing up, and I've been lucky enough now to meet her a couple of times in Australia, and you actually have a friendship with her, which is looking back when you idolise someone, that you have that relationship with them now. That she texts me and stuff before matches, and I've caught up with her a couple of times. Roy Keane, I was a huge fan growing up with. I was a huge Man United fan, and I loved everything about Man United and Alex Ferguson and all of that. I suppose nowadays, like I love watching all sports. Like I suppose AFL I love watching now over there, but there wouldn't be like one sports person that I just look up to and say, oh, I want to be like them. Like obviously, I have huge admiration for Katie Taylor. I think what she's doing as a female sports woman right throughout the world has been amazing. I don't think she's got half enough credit for what she's done. If that was a male boxer within Ireland, I think they'd be celebrated a lot more. But certainly you'd watch her. I love her drive and her passion. I've watched her documentary or a couple of times. Just even any sports person, like I've started to watch the Last Dance and Michael Jordan, and just watching that type of stuff. The way sports people, like how driven he was, and how he wanted to get to the top. And there's nothing going to stop him. I just love watching. Not that you can kind of see some of your own mentality within them. Not that you're ever a Michael Jordan or a Katie Taylor, but you can see that the way they go about things is probably how you went about things, that you're very driven. I like any sports people. Yeah, there'll be a couple of AFL people that you'd certainly look up to. But yeah, right throughout my career, it was probably Sonia and Roy Keane were the two when I was growing up, and then obviously the likes of Ciara McDonald as a Mayo footballer, them type of people. Maurice Fitzgerald was another one that I'd have, had a huge admiration for, and would have watched a lot and tried to reenact a couple of things that they were doing on the football pitch in the front garden, but never come off too well.
Well, you didn't do half bad for yourself, so you'll be fairly all right, In terms of books, do you read a lot of books, like sports books yourself? I
tried to. I wouldn't classify myself as the best reader, but I have. I just finished the Philly McMahon book there probably a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I have read. I've started to read. I've lucky enough. Someone sent me a kind of number of coaching books online. So I'm reading that Legacy, which is the All Blacks book.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I do. Yeah, I like to read a lot. Paul O'Connell's sports book is probably one of the best books I've read. I loved his autobiography. So there's there's ones like that, yeah, that I'd certainly read. But yeah, it's to get. I'm not very good at sitting down and kind of, not saying doing nothing, but I'm not very good at even watching telly or Netflix. I think the Michael Jordan one is probably the first one I've put on that I said I'm definitely sitting down and watching. But I'd just be very active, and I don't know, not very good at just relaxing. So, but there is ones that certainly if I'm sitting on a flight or have time like that, I will sit down and watch it. But otherwise, I'm too active. Even in this lockdown, I'm out and about and doing jobs, or I'm probably overtraining and doing stuff like that because you've nothing else to do. So, but yeah, there is certain sports books I will get hooked on, and yeah, there's ones I've read throughout my time. Like as I said, I've obviously Roy Keane, and I've read Alex Ferguson before. There's ones like that. The people I've read Dan Carter as well. Teams and sports persons like that I have certainly read. So I have got a few recommendations as well that I must pick up when I have more time to settle. But it's normally when I'm on holidays or a bit more chilled out and relaxed that I'm probably better at reading them.
It must be a Mayo thing because I'm exactly the same. I just can't sit still. I'm not a lover of TV. I'd read books only on holidays. I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah, I actually really, really miss sport on television because it's the only thing I used to watch on TV. Even when I came home from Australia, I have the AFL app, and I used to watch all the AFL matches, which they run from a Thursday to a Sunday. So you have every match on TV. And now you just don't even have that. Like I think rugby league is starting back in Australia at the end of May. So I'm looking forward to something coming on the TV that you can watch. Yeah. It's amazing how much you miss sport on the TV. So it's because it's the only thing I really watch. So I'd be more likely now to be found out cutting the lawn or painting a fence or doing something like that.
Playing with those nieces of yours.
Exactly.
So this is another question from Avril, and she wants to know who would your ideal lockdown partner be?
If I'm my ideal lockdown partner, I'd have to say Crazy because she's really relaxed and chilled out. Someone like Dave Beckham now, or someone like that. Someone that would be a good bit of eye candy to look at. If it was someone famous, ideally I'd love to meet Beckham or Ronaldo. Would be two people I'd love to meet. Well, especially growing up, I love Dave Beckham. So yeah, they'd be probably my two. But yeah, I wouldn't mind an old reunion back in Athlone. I'd see a house there where we could just be locked down and spend our days probably walking up and down to Charlie Brown's or something like that. You certainly do miss them days. Where you could be very free and easy, or the days where you're able to go out and socialise and still be able to train.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately now I'm not able for that anymore. So alcohol doesn't hit the table too often. Certainly when you're training hard, it's I think the last time was probably Crazy's wedding, where you got to have a proper couple of days where you could just relax and have a couple of drinks. But it's too difficult now when you're trying to train full time and do that. But yeah, there'd be a few people I wouldn't mind, but yeah, certainly I wouldn't mind to be back in Willow Park and having a few back there for sure.
I'm not going to talk about the afterlife, as in the after of football, because, it will come to an end at some stage, probably with you, maybe when you're 90. But what is life after football? I think as a result of this podcast, I've found out a little bit. But tell me, what's life after football?
That's a good question. I have no idea. Life after I finish playing will certainly I'll stay involved in some way in coaching, through whether that's through AFL or if it's Gaelic football or whatever. I will stay involved in some way, because you can't just leave the sports that you love and just forget about them. I do see myself doing a lot of media work, and the bits I've done with RT, I've really enjoyed, whether that was radio or TV. And doing a bit of writing for papers for different ladies football matches. I kind of really enjoyed that part of it as well. So yeah, I'd certainly hope to go into that aspect of it. And obviously through work-wise, you feel like that you want to give back in some way to sport now, I suppose. I always had kind of said to myself when I was playing sport, I don't want to work in sport. I did initially at the start, but it was too much. So yeah, I'd certainly like to get involved in something around young people and maybe obesity and programs for young people. Keep them active and keep them involved in sport. I don't think we're doing enough for young people, especially in national schools, where they're doing enough exercise or we're putting enough focus on sport. And I don't think we have a full realisation how important it is to be involved in sport, whether that's competitively or just recreational. I think that the skills that you get from being involved in a team sport and even individual sports. The characteristics that you can pick up and the traits that you can pick up, you're not going to pick them up anywhere else. You're not going to pick them up in school. You're not going to pick them up in general life, and you're not going to pick them up in work. I think the traits and characteristics and things that I've picked up, the skills I've picked up, have all come through sport, and I certainly can bring them into work. The same core on the pitch and that you're driven and stuff will be the same ones that you'll see at work. You get things done. You're very good at working in teams and communication and all that. So you've learned so much. I think it's really important that we put an emphasis on young people being involved in sport. I think that starts right at a young age when kids are 4 and 5 and learning the basics, whether that's hop on one leg or climb a wall or whatever it is, that we put a lot of emphasis on young people being involved in sport and keeping them involved in sport for as long as we can.
Yeah, and maintaining that level of flexibility in a child as well and continue that on up, because obviously that adds to everything.
Exactly. I just don't think, and I don't think there's enough being done. I think we have to do it now and then here in Ireland, and just think that there should be a lot more done, and it should be a bigger focus within school. It should go hand in hand with education. It should be one as important as the other.
Yeah, really interesting. Will there be book number 2 for you? The Game Changer 2?
Absolutely no way.
A little documentary, Shauna following you around again?
No, there'll be no documentary, there'll be no book. I think people know enough about me now. The book probably, I'd have had another couple of chapters, all right, but no, certainly, no, there's enough information about me out there now. I think everyone knows about me, so I don't see there'll be a book number 2 unless now I get a huge offer or something, but doubtful. No, and as I said, I like the quiet life, certainly not a camera stuck in my face. So there'll be no Shauna following me, even though she's done a great job.
Super job.
And yeah, it was lovely to look back on. And as I said, it's more important for my nieces and nephews and friends that they got to see it, and my dad and stuff. So from that point of view, it was lovely. But no, there's certainly, I don't intend to do any more.
And how do you feel about getting a bit of an Aussie accent that you've picked up?
There's certainly no Aussie accent, I can tell you that.
I know there is. No, there's a bit there.
I think I'm actually getting more country if possible. That's because I'm learning to speak slow, because I speak too fast. The Aussies only can take slow. So no, certainly there's no Aussie accent. I want to be out there for another 10 years, and I still don't think I'll pick one up.
Do you know if you're going back over again towards the end of the season, or?
That's for me to decide.
Okay.
The offer's on the table there. If I want to go back, yeah, certainly. So yeah, I'll see how the body and mind is in a couple of months' time, and I'll have a couple of chats to people, and then I'll
go on out of that. You're going. You're on that plane already.
I'm sick of that plane journey over and back.
Look, enjoy it for as long as you can. It's a fantastic opportunity. And fair play to you. You've such a story to tell from, very young age in terms of playing football, and then right throughout your entire career, and what you've done, outside of sport as well in terms of your career. Like, that's very commendable as well. And where you got it through hard work and determination, and you didn't get it easy. I think, with your mentality being quiet and reserved, and it's a great way to be, because you're humble as opposed to cocky, and there's so many different cocky people out there. So, it's great to see that you've done so well for yourself.
Thank you.
There's my little rant now for you.
I'll throw you a 50 for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no bother. Thanks a million. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Really, really appreciated the time. Best of luck with getting back on that plane, heading back over to Australia, and hopefully you'll have an amazing season for the rest of the 2020. Well, when you get back, and then into 2021, and hopefully all of this pandemic stuff will have moved on. So thanks a million for your time.
Thanks a million, Emer, aka Chicken. Great talking to you, and as I say, hope you're keeping well and safe in this weird time, and things will go back to normal pretty soon.
CORA STAUNTON on the Kish Podcast. Emer, I have one question for you. Why do you have a nickname Chicken?
That is very interesting.
It is. Go on, we all want to know.
I can't tell you that, Tony.
Why not?
Because that's private and personal.
Oh, it's private and personal. So there's something really dirty.
No, it isn't dirty. It's not filthy. Jesus, mammy, I swear to God. No, I will tell you where that name. Do you want to really know?
We really want to know.
Fado in Athlone, Emer decided that she would go up on top of a crane, as you do, but it was a sponsored bungee jump. and it was 70 metres in the air. Emer went up there knowing in her heart of hearts that she's afraid of heights. So not a great place to be fair.
Bit silly.
Yeah, but anyway, I went to the top and then I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. Take a deep breath. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to step off. But I got as far as the edge and I was like, I actually can't do this. So then, so since then, the girls always nickname me Chicken. And they were at the bottom of the crane. Yeah, so it's not that amazing story, but that's where the nickname came from. And I've never told anybody that. And not many people know that that's my nickname. It was,
well, there you go.
It was given to me by CORA STAUNTON and Yvonne Byrne.
Anyway, listen, well done. It was a great interview with CORA. And for someone like me who, as probably people have guessed by now, I'm not the sportiest of them. I've learned quite a lot from listening to CORA, and the way she wants to continue in with coaching or helping kids out when she does eventually hang the boots up.
She is an absolute legend in the sport, but she'd be absolutely phenomenal as well in terms of coaching young girls and boys right around the country, maybe even further afield. I can see her, in my opinion, probably getting a little bit of a future longer career out in Australia, not necessarily playing, but in the realm of coaching, because I think she's always been very good. Even when we were in Athlone, there was always a side of her that was, kind of helping out with the coaching and so on. And look, when you're involved in the sport from such a young age, you've got a wealth of experience, and there's no doubt about it, she'd make a fantastic coach. And I was delighted to hear that she is going to change her career up a little bit and is going to maybe pursue that whole area of coaching. So it's going to be a really interesting one to watch. But I think she's got another couple of years left, definitely, of playing football. And you know what? Maybe she'll be bionic woman. And she'll continue on well into her 40s. And once the body, as she said herself, doesn't give up or doesn't start aching that much that she can't play anymore, there's no doubt that her mind is firmly on the next game and firmly on succeeding and excelling at everything she does. So, yeah, CORA she's a great girl.
Well, best of luck to her, and hopefully she'll get the career in Australia back up and running after the pandemic and all the lockdowns are lifted again.
For sure, definitely.
Next week on the Kish Podcast, we're talking to a woman who's done very well in the last general election in Ireland, and somebody that, Emer, you shined as a political journalist, I feel.
Well, I don't know about that now, Tony, but I have to say I really, really did enjoy interviewing this person. It's none other than Mary Lou MacDonald. We were delighted to secure an interview with her, and she was incredibly generous with her time. I felt that she answers the questions very honestly.
Yeah, for sure. And she answered the questions that were asked, unlike a lot of politicians who will kind of sidestep questions and give, a completely different answer to something they were asked.
And some of those questions can be difficult ones as well to answer. I think you'll find throughout this interview, whilst we did get to know her on a personal level and find out who she actually is and her story, there was a couple of questions I felt in there that were kind of sticky questions, but she answered them very well.
Interesting. Find out next week what that line could be.
Yes, and really looking forward to that one.
Don't forget, if you want to get in touch with us, you can of course visit thekishpodcast.com, and we're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter now as well.
Indeed we are. And if you wouldn't mind to continue to review the show, we've received amazing reviews over the past week, which has been phenomenal. So we want to kind of keep that momentum going because it helps us with the algorithms.
It does indeed, and it buys the round.
That's it, absolutely. So Tony, until next week, chat you later.
Love you lots, bye.